Spotlight is proudly sponsored by HEC Media, St. Louis's home for arts, education, and culture.
Today on Spotlight, Christmas carolers spreading cheer for over 100 years in St. Louis, the famous name behind it all. And then a group that's been helping kids stay engaged in their education since the early 1900s. Plus, a St. Louis startup wants to innovate hemp crops as a competitive crop with soy and corn. But first, taking your model railroad set to the next level. It's Sunday and you're watching the multiple Emmy Award-winning Spotlight.
My husband and I have been model railroaders since we were married in 1981, and we have a great HO layout in the basement of our house. And I did not like taking photos of our layout and seeing an ugly concrete wall of our basement. So my husband and sons put up a thin layer of drywall, and I started painting sky, tree, hills that blended in with the three-dimensional scenery. And I decided I liked doing this enough and I would be happy to do it for other people.
And now she does. Joanne Kargas draws on her professional experience as an architectural illustrator, creating custom scenery and images.
When a client approaches me and hires me to paint a custom backdrop for them, I take the time to tell them, think about what's important on your layout and in your family history. Maybe it's Grandma and Grandpa's farm or Uncle Harold's hardware store. And what I can do is bring that very personal touch of specific buildings or signage or anything that's special to the homeowner and the model railroader and make it come to life on their walls. On this backdrop, the back was a generic countryside scene with hills and trees and the farm. But these two surfaces were a plaster cloth that was just a very light gray. But he wanted it to look like stone or like a cliff face. So I painted all the detail of rocks and shadows and textures to make this also look more three-dimensional. Sometimes a model railroad project is a collaboration with my husband, Rick. He's a great woodworker. He will build the custom buildings, and then I will take it to the level of painting and doing the detail color on the building.
The end result is always a one-of-a-kind custom backdrop for the model railroader.
I was drawn to trains because my father gave me a train. We put it under the Christmas tree, and then after Christmas we took it down to the basement and set up a train layout down in the basement. The nice thing was that I could share these trains with my brother. My job was to keep them in repair, and my brother's job was to run them. My uncle worked for the American Locomotive Company in Schenectady, New York, and my dad was also a guard for the American Locomotive Company. And then my grandfather was a conductor, so trains have been a part of my family all of my life. There's things from my childhood that I've asked Joanne to incorporate. A picture of my house, the picture of the school I grew up in. And then her husband, Rick, made the General Electric building that is outstanding. And so I was glad when my brother gave me an electric sign that says General Electric and it lights up in sequence. And so it's been a joy to move that train that way, or move that tree, or put that person in. And I've really enjoyed it over the 14 years I've been building this layout. And I'm especially glad for Joanne, who came and did the background, the backdrop, and really brought this to life. So on a day when I have time, I love to come down here and run trains. I come and play trains because it's fun. It's always been fun. It takes me back to my childhood.
My grandfather worked for the Pennsylvania Railroad, and I just got enamored by trains, and I can't remember when I didn't have a model train. Well, this is what is commonly called garden railway, G scale. One of my favorite features is the Bonne Terre Railroad Station Rick and Joanne did for me. And of course, Joanne did all the backdrops here and really tied it all together. This basically is the town of Herculaneum, Missouri. Like the Emporium over there is named for my wife, Wanda. The gas station is named for my dad, Earl. And this building here in front is Neva's boarding house, and that's my mother. And this building right here is Master's Engineering and Surveying. And that's what I did for a living. Joanne and I worked really hard on trying to make the three-dimensional aspects, the road here constructed, blend to the backdrop. And you can hardly see where it transitions from a real 3D model to a painting. When she started, this was all pink styrofoam to begin with, so it's changed a lot over time. Well, I find the hobby very rewarding. This is my space to come down and lose about 5 hours, easily. And there's always something to do. Although it looks like it's done, it's not done.
For more information on the artist and model railroad open houses and train events around town, go to joannecargis.com. For more St. Louis stories, subscribe to the HEC YouTube channel. Connect STL from HEC Media. They are the sounds of the season, Christmas carols, songs that are known by many, and according to a certain movie,
best way to spread Christmas cheer is singing loud for all to hear.
Singing is the fastest way to spread Christmas cheer.
What we're finding now is that people need to sing, and they need to be in community with one another in ways that maybe they didn't desperately need before.
Elizabeth Hogan, Executive Director of the St. Louis Christmas Carols Association, says singing creates connection and brings about joy.
Music has such power to affect change and bring people together. There's tons of research that backs that up.
And Elizabeth would know. Her group's been bringing the power of music to people all over St. Louis for over 100 years.
The St. Louis Christmas Carols Association has been around in St. Louis for 111 years, and we are equipped to raise money for people in the St. Louis region who need it the most. That's kids in the St. Louis region. So we equip volunteer carolers to go out into the community and go caroling for a great cause. All the money that they collect, we grant back to nonprofits in the St. Louis region who are doing important work with kids.
The St. Louis Christmas Carols Association began in 1911 by William H. Danforth, a well-known name around the St. Louis area.
The Danforth family is very integral to our founding, and William Danforth, the story goes back in the day, went caroling with some of his friends, some businessmen here in St. Louis, and they found as they caroled up and down the streets of Kingsbury Place that people were giving them money, and they thought, well, this is interesting. And in that English tradition of going caroling, they were collecting that money and wondered what they could do with it, and had the idea to start giving that back to kids who needed it. So they began a charitable foundation back then, and it has grown and grown over the past 111 years to be what it is today with the St. Louis Christmas Carols Association.
The Danforth family is still connected to the association.
Dr. Danforth from Washington University was our board chairperson for many years, and as part of that connection, our office is in the West Campus building at Washington University, and Don Danforth III continues to serve as our board chairperson for the past number of years as well. So we really appreciate that connection to the family.
Elizabeth says she likes to think of this group as a matchmaker for people who want to go Christmas caroling. It all starts with a desire to help others.
So there's a lot of ways that people can volunteer with us if they want to get involved. The first of those is that they could just be a person who wants to go out and go caroling. So they could get a group of people together. They could get their friends or their family or a group that they're in, like the Scouts or a church group, and pick a place either in their neighborhood, or they could also go in one of the prearranged public spaces that we have each year. And they'll go caroling with a red canister in their hand and take a collection. And then that collection we turn around to grants for nonprofits.
Today's costumed carolers are the Kingsbury Place Singers.
They're also volunteers, but they are semi-professional caroling group. They go out into the community in costumes and do public and private events. but they're a special booking, and we'll go caroling for a suggested donation.
From the faces in the audience, it looks like their mission of spreading joy is working.
Just participating in the community events, because you really feel that spirit of Christmas immediately as soon as you come and you're with everybody.
And hearing carolers sing familiar and nostalgic tunes brings a smile to people's face, and I think it's really valuable for bringing people into a joyful and peaceful spirit in the holiday season.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
With every stroke of the bow, every stroke of the brush, with every stroke of genius, the arts make life in St. Louis richer, not just emotionally, but also economically. In our region, the arts create $869 million a year in economic activity, supporting 12,000 jobs, generating $155 million for state and local governments, with more than 8 million annual arts-related visits. That's more than all St. Louis sporting events combined. Whether in a park, on a street, or a wall, experimental or a classic, the arts deserve our support, because the arts help support us. HEC Media is proud to be our region's home for arts, education, and culture, because in St. Louis, the arts mean business.
History Spotlight, brought to you by HEC Media and the Missouri Historical Society.
Hello, I'm Dr. Jody Sowell, president of the Missouri Historical Society in St. Louis, and this is History Spotlight. In the early 1900s, St. Louis educators established Blewett Junior High to keep students engaged in their education beyond the 8th grade, aiming to prevent early dropouts to the workforce. The school offered a diverse range of clubs, activities, and community service. Librarian Emily Jaycox details the effectiveness of Blewett's innovative approach to education and community involvement.
St. Louis had the distinction of establishing the first public high school west of the Mississippi River. But even with this landmark institution, only a few students in St. Louis stayed in school beyond the 8th grade. In the 19-teens, a group of educators collaborated on a special junior high school that would engage youngsters and their families, appeal to a wide variety of interests, and try to keep in school many pupils who would otherwise leave to go to work as soon as they were 14 years old. We have a 1920 yearbook from Blewett Junior High, and it documents some of their results. How did so many students stay interested and in school? One answer might lie in the many clubs offered at Blewett. Students were required to join at least one club. In addition to the sports, music, yearbook, and other activities that you might think of right away, Blewett offered these: a hiking club, the No St. Louis Club. Other clubs at Blewett included the Social Service Club, which made and delivered gifts for hospitalized children, and the Junior Experimenters Club, whose members tinkered with scientific equipment. How successful was Blewett in keeping students in school? Of the 1,400-odd students, only 67 left to go to work. Most of these were from families that did not have another wage earner. 5 more withdrew, giving the reasons failure or lack of interest in school. One of the students summed it up: "There is no doubt that the freedom, the opportunities for developing leadership, and the extreme democracy of the junior high school are conducive to their continuing their school course." Blewett Junior High was located at 5351 Enright from 1917 to 1925, a few steps from Soldan High and behind where the Delmar Divine is today.
Next week on History Spotlight, discover how holiday traditions in St. Louis have transformed over the centuries.
To learn more about the Missouri Historical Society, visit mohistory.org. You can find the stories featured in today's show along with past episodes and more at hecmedia.org/spotlight.
Scientists with St. Louis startup Saluna are applying modern technology to a legacy crop, hemp.
Industrial hemp, if you will, has a tremendous history. The 1937 marijuana tax, which prohibited cannabis in general. What we're looking to do is revitalize hemp, to restore it to its proper place in society, and being this really phenomenal crop that can fulfill the 4 phases of agriculture, being feed for animals, fuel for us, sustainable fuel, fiber for clothing and textiles, and also food for us. Is very healthy.
This St. Louis startup wants to innovate hemp crops for Midwest growers as a competitive alternative to the existing row crops of soybeans and corn.
Our role is focusing on developing improved seed genetics for hemp to serve a renewable fuel market. And in that, what we'll do is grow high productivity hemp, and the grower will then sell that to a crusher. They'll extract the oil for fuel, and they will take the meal and feed that to livestock. And we believe that hemp will be able to outperform soybeans in some of the low productivity acreage. What do I mean by low productivity acreage? It's not fertile land. Some place where maybe it doesn't get all the precipitation that's needed for soybeans.
According to Saluna, their breakthrough oilseed for Midwest farmers is a type of hemp plant that is nearly free of THC.
Part of the issue that we have to deal with is the perception of cannabis. So some people would think of hemp, and what comes to mind, they think of marijuana. To grow hemp, you have to be legally compliant. And so part of what we have to develop varieties that do not produce THC. As a breeding goal, we need to reduce that THC level to as low as possible, even zero.
What we want to be able to do is provide some reassurance to the growers through technology that they're going to have an appropriate and compliant crop. We can use scientific studies to identify versions of the gene that don't produce any THC at all, and then exploit molecular breeding, so using DNA markers and breeding methodologies to introduce that version of the gene that produces low TH or no THC into high-performing hemp varieties, so you get both high performance and low THC.
The founders believe that Midwest growers need more planting choices.
One of the biggest problems with modern commercial agriculture, especially in the Midwest, is that you have only 2 crops that you can grow, corn and soy. And that's really bad for the environment, but also for the agriculture itself. And so it's always better when you can grow crops in rotation, because it helps reduce pest buildup and disease buildup. In 3 years, a farmer could grow corn the first year, soybean the second year, and hemp the other.
So 1 year ago, Biogenerator Labs, the investment arm of BioSTL, helped to lead the formation of Saluna, launching this crop development program to compete with soybeans and corn.
There's a bit of a monopoly out there for corn and soy and a lot of these traditional crops. We want to be able to provide growers with more choice, because we believe that when growers make their own decisions, they're going to be more profitable and they're going to be better off.
So the company is growing hemp and carefully developing this oil seed through extensive lab testing, breeding, and field studies.
Collect seeds from different places in the world, so varieties that we can use for breeding, and looking at those varieties and asking which ones have the traits that we need.
We might be one of the few people who get to see all of the diversity of hemp in the entire world. And we're going to be able to plant them out and walk row by row, dissect them scientifically, pull out the best properties of both parents into one progeny, and hopefully commercialize that for growers.
Later on Spotlight, a holiday song from local favorite Miss Jubilee.
Hi, I'm Aaron Lane from Bass Tire, Santa's favorite local tire store.
Every Christmas, Santa makes a fortune helping businesses make their fortune by appearing in their ads. No wonder he's so jolly. But of all the ads Santa has appeared in over the years, the iconic image of the chubby, merry, grandfatherly Santa we have today was created by an advertising agency based in St. Louis, working for a company based in Atlanta. The agency was Darcy Advertising, and the company was Coca-Cola.
Darcy had the Coke account from 1906 to 1955. Before Darcy came out with this ad, Santa was depicted as a rather stern character. He was rather thin and garbed in sort of a brown uniform.
Darcy began using Santa in Coca-Cola's advertising in the 1920s. This ad, drawn in 1930 by an artist named Fred Misen, depicted a department store Santa enjoying the pause that refreshes at what was then the world's largest soda fountain, located in the famous Bar department store in downtown St. Louis. But the following year is when the enduring image of the actual Santa was created by an artist named Haddon Sundblom, who also created the look of other iconic advertising characters, including the Quaker Oats Man. The mastermind behind the Coca-Cola campaign was Darcy's Archie Lee, who was the St. Louis-based account executive in charge of Coke.
I don't think it's known very widely at all. And I don't know. I mean, I've often wondered whether or not I really want to know that the Santa that my kids love, that I loved, was created by an advertising firm trying to sell me a soft drink.
Haddon Sundblom drew Santa for Coca-Cola from 1931 to 1964, 33 years. At first, Sundblom had used one of his neighbors as the model. But when that man died, after some reflection, Sundblom started using his own face. The rest of Santa's look was truly pure poetry.
He just followed the description that was in 'Twas the Night Before Christmas and created a quite jolly old elf. And that was the image that America came to love, and I guess the rest of the world came to love after that. Oh my gosh, you couldn't find a more iconic character to be seen with your product. I mean, it was brilliant. Santa stands for everything that's good, and that's what Coca-Cola wanted to be associated with.
And being associated with Coca-Cola was also good for Darcy. Their success with Coke helped the St. Louis-based agency land another beverage account.
Wise.
It was just amazing to think that this company in St. Louis was competing with some of the biggest agencies in the country.
It's not nice to fool Mother Nature.
Darcy would go on to give us many more memorable ads and characters. But today, Darcy itself is just a memory. It was acquired by a French firm in 2002, which closed the office in St. Louis and retired the Darcy name. But thanks to Darcy's creativity, the world will always share the thirst for Santa.
Advertising is really a mirror of our culture at the time. And, you know, it sometimes is just a flash in the pan where you see an ad or a commercial and you instantly identify with it because it's reflecting you. And some last years or even decades, like the Haddon Sundblom ad for Coca-Cola.
HEC Media. Recognized, celebrated, honored time and again for excellence in the industry. Mid-America Emmys, Tellys, Natoas, Auroras, and other awards. HEC Media has been bringing home the hardware for over a decade. Hundreds of nominations and wins, from regional to international levels. Arts and education to author talks, magazine shows and documentaries. Individual craft achievements to overall excellence. Plus so much more. And although doing good work is its own reward, recognition, well, it's nice too. See what all the fuss is about. Find all of the award-winning content at hecmedia.org.
Next week, they helped kick off the holiday season, and it all started in the STL. Plus, a history lesson, how the holidays have changed in St. Louis through the years. Thanks for watching Spotlight. Join us next Sunday at 9:30 a.m. on KPLR 11.